So, do you have like a medium or small sized business that you've been struggling to scale? What has happened in America over the last couple of days, weeks, and months has been a big game changer. You're wondering, I've been doing this business for so long and it's just not yielding what I needed to yield. I've put a lot of effort in there, I've put a lot of focus, but still it's not yielding what it's supposed to be. There is a lot that we can learn from what Donald Trump has done in the last couple of weeks and months in the presidential elections, right? In business, right? I'm going to tell you 4 things right now that you can apply from what Donald Trump has done in America in the last couple of weeks. Of course, winning the elections in an unbelievable way. Everybody thought those elections were going to be close, but they were so far away from each other that people wondered, was Kamala Harris deceived? She was quite surprised, and so was I as well. I thought it was going to be tight, but eventually it was big. Anyway, I think that there are key things that Donald Trump does in his life and he has applied in these elections that if small to medium-sized businesses actually embrace these things, right, they will grow. And I'm going to be sharing some of these philosophies with you right now. And if you listen to them and apply them to your business, there's a lot of huge potential that you can see. 1, Donald Trump was very, very focused. Immediately he lost the last elections, right? He was very clear from the beginning. You are looking at the 47th president of the United States. He didn't wait. He was very clear on his focus, on his ambition, and he was clear on his purpose. A lot of businesses, right, they don't have a long-term strategy. We're thinking about making money for tomorrow, for next year. Every business needs to have this 4-year plan, this 4-year horizon, the vision, the mission. Donald Trump was clear. He lost the elections, but he said, you know what, he was the 45th president, right? And immediately he left out there and he knew there was a 46th president. He told people, you're looking at the 47th president of the United States. Very clear, very focused. A lot of businesses are not focused. This year they're driving one agenda. The next year they're driving another agenda. Every business needs to have a North Star like Donald Trump did, right? Boom. Number 2, there's sometimes in a business, right, where people want you to think differently, right? Some of your shareholders, some of the people that have put profit, some of your business partners, right, they really want you to change some of the inherent natures of the way the business exists. There's some certain characters, there's some certain things you've put in place in what your brand stands for, what your company stands for, and at certain times you're wondering, you look out there and you see another brand that, whoa, that brand is doing this. You see your competition doing something else and you want to do it. It's like, whoa, those guys are making shoes, those guys are putting X on their shoes, and you want to do the exact same thing, right? You mustn't do that, and I'll tell you why. You see, the Donald Trump philosophy, right, his brand DNA, his characteristics, his distinctive brand assets, no matter what people said, Donald Trump has stuck to them. They say you talk like this, blah, 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 Donald Trump talks like this, I'm just gonna be that. And people make fun of him. You know what? He goes out there and he talks the same way. He doesn't ever think that I'm gonna change the way I talk because Trevor Noah dissed me, because they talked about me on the Sunday show. He doesn't care. He is true to who he is. Look at that dance, right, that he's been doing, right? He does the Donald Trump dance, right? Funny, sick, ugly dance. Even I hate it, but he goes out there and he does it again. People make fun of it, but he goes out there and defies every single thing people are saying. So he's not shy about who he is. He just continues to blossom. And some of those things, right, is what gave him the advantage. He talked about they're eating the dogs. They're eating the dogs. And everybody are like, geez, what is this guy saying? They made memes about it, thought it was going to bring him down. But those were the very bullets that brought him to life in these elections. In a business, you must be very true to your brand. What does your brand stand for? Once you've nailed it, you're convicted about it, you're clear about it, do not change it. It might look like it's not working initially, but that very thing is what is going to give you the win. Your colors, your look, the way you speak, the way you talk, your voice, drive it hard. It's going to give you the win. That's the Donald Trump effect. Never messes with the way his character is. He keeps flogging it and he keeps driving it. Number 3, with Donald Trump. With these elections, everybody was looking at big things, right? The Democrats were looking at democracy, they were looking at abortion laws, and those are topical issues in our society, right? Very topical issues, by the way. But they were not what mattered to the people. It's so possible that sometimes in a business, you're thinking about what the business wants. You're thinking about the rhetorics, right, that you want to hear. You're thinking about maybe the consumer wants bottles of water. Maybe he wants water that is spring water, sparkling, and he wouldn't mind that. But that's not his biggest pain point. Donald Trump was very clear to say that in this nation, the economy was so important, immigration rules and policies were so important. He went after what mattered to the people, to the consumer, and not necessarily what he thought was great. If Donald Trump wanted to go about what he thought was great, he would have done all sorts of stuff. And you guys know that Donald Trump can do anything he wants, right? He's like that, right? But he was very clear. This is what the people want to hear. And he built a whole campaign about it. People kept saying, Donald Trump, you're not doing enough. You're not talking about what you're going to do. He just kept focusing. Economy, the immigration policies, those two big things, right? Later on the elections, he started to give a little bit of material, right, for how he was going to turn things around, right? With, of course, drilling oil in America, stopping the reserve. He started to talk about that, but those are all economic areas, right? So with a business, you have to be very, very clear on what's the consumer paying. Always think about the consumer, think about the need. Don't be carried away by the flaws or by the fantasies of what you've always wanted. A lot of people in business today, and some of the business plans people have, it's because it's what they've always wanted as kids. It's some of the things they've always dreamed for. It's some of the things they think is necessary or needed in their country, or to their people, or to their families. But you need to divorce yourself, from a mindset of you. When you are creating a business, just think, how do I satisfy the strongest problem that consumer has, and forget about yourself? If you get that right, you're on your big way to amassing big wealth along the way. And Donald Trump was very clear about that. That's one big thing that won him these elections. Boom. Now, in a business as well, you would have a setback, right? Every business has a setback period. A period of time where you're flying and you're like, whoa, the sales are just flying out of the waves. And then suddenly it drops, right? And you're like, whoa, what's happening to my business right now? Or you launch a big campaign and you think it's really working, and suddenly it goes boom fire, right? What we gotta learn from Donald Trump in these elections is, after that debate, right, that he had with Kamala Harris, of course he floored Biden, right, in the first debate. That was such a big, he beat him hands down, that Biden decided to hand over to Kamala Harris, right? But that first debate with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump lost that debate, and everybody knew about it. It was clear. Even I watched that debate and I was like, boom, what did Donald Trump just do? This is not him. But at that point, that was when Donald Trump, at the brink of his worst, rose from the ashes, right? He came out of those elections confident and saying, you know what, he won the elections. Anybody that is looking for a rematch is the one that lost, because they are the one that wants the rematch is the one that lost, right? Because they have something to prove, right? He was very, very confident in his position, right? Despite the fact that he had a flaw. Now in a business, you a lot of times have these proposals and you need to push to the breaking point. And it might look like it's not working. It might look like you've had a downfall in there, but you gotta push to the breaking point, to the tipping point, where things start to tip, right? And Donald Trump, in the midst of all of those competition and all of the making of the mistakes, and it looked like he didn't handle that very well, he was so dogged, right? He was extremely dogged on how he ran things, right? And I think that that's something that is very remarkable with Donald Trump. Look at all the cases in courts and all the areas and cases he had. Everybody thought that this was the end, right? He was never going to make it. A lot of times in business, the biggest way to grow is to write the story, to develop the market. Share gain is great, right? When you can take share from your competition and do what they're doing. But there is nothing as being able to read the next opportunity in the market and step into it. Donald Trump has been able to do that. Donald Trump always writes his own story, right? ever since he was young and creating businesses, he seems to always get ahead of the narrative, right? Or change the narrative or modulate it in his favor, right? When something goes wrong, he creates it in his own advantage, right? He sees the opportunity and he takes it, right? Whether it's about, at that point, going into McDonald's, he saw the opportunity, his campaign, stepping into McDonald's to serve the people. That was great stuff that he did on this campaign trail. He just always saw the opportunity, right? And he wrote the narrative. In business, there is nothing as great as developing the market. You know, what's the opportunity? What's the gap? What doesn't exist? What can be done differently? What are you not doing differently that you can? That's your advantage. That's your narrative. And you gotta jump on that. A point of differentiation. Something no one has done before. Something no one has seen before. You might want to do a me too, but how do you make it a me too differently, right? And Donald Trump is really able to do that and master that really, really good. Something else that has really helped Donald Trump in these elections, and I'm going to end in this one, right? I think that it's important that in whatever business you do, you must seek you first the kingdom and the power of the spiritual of God. I think that Donald Trump was not shy to call upon what gave him his identity, his power, his grace, his favor. From the beginning of the elections, talking about how God saved him from the bullet, you know, talking about how God is the guy, how Jesus is the person, right? He was very consistent. Even at the end of the day, when he won the election, he was talking about how he was going to be able to make America first again. But of course, always put God first. I personally believe that in business, you got to put your creator and that thing that drives you ahead of everything else in your business. It must circulate. It must be the center of what you drive. These are a few principles, right, that I think that we can learn from Donald Trump. These same principles we can apply to our businesses in Africa, in the US, in any continent of the world. You can apply this to your business. So we try to put out these videos, you know, to be able to inspire people to build businesses, to give them tips, to see how they can defy the norm in Africa and other parts of Africa and other parts of the world as well. But we really, really want to challenge people in the world to create, because the only way that the world creates value and we grow and we make ourselves self-sufficient and make ourselves fulfilled and able is by creating. And while you're driving your business, let's keep eyes on what happens in America. Let's keep our eyes on how this affects all the continents in the world. Subscribe to the channel, follow us onto the next channel and onto the next video. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.